What's up, YouTube? This is your boy John from the Jersey Shore, and I am back with you today to give you my review of the 1985 film Return of the Living Dead.
Renderforest.com.
If you're already a subscriber to my channel, welcome back. It's good to see you again. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, come on, go ahead and click that subscribe button, ring the bell, join the Project Ellsworth family. Return of the Living Dead was written by Dan O'Bannon, Rudy Ricci, and John Russo. It was directed by Dan O'Bannon, starring Clu Gulager, James Karen, and Don Calfa. So Return of the Dead starts off with Freddy and Frank at work. They work in a medical supply warehouse. Freddy is the new guy, Frank is showing him the ropes. So Frank is showing Freddy the ropes. He's showing him the different things that they have in the warehouse. Basically giving him a rundown of what everything is, where it is, and what it's for. One thing that he does make a point to show him is something that they have called split dogs. They're actually dogs that have passed away and are split right down the middle, and they're used for veterinary schools. Another thing that he shows them is they have a big, what appears to be like a meat locker. Inside of that meat locker is where they keep the cadavers. There's one cadaver in this room, and he's hung up. It almost looks like a giant ice hook stuck in his ears, and he's hanging from a hook. He's suspended from the ceiling. So Frank starts to tell Freddy a story about these, they almost look like oil drums, these containers that actually were left by the military, or lost by the military, that contain human bodies. He tells Freddy about these tanks, and then he almost seems to be kind of bragging about how well made the tanks are. He almost seems like he's showing off that the tanks are actually there. Freddy gets excited that they're there, and he obviously wants to see these things. So Frank takes Freddy over to the container. He turns on a light. You can clearly see that there is a body inside of this tank, and Frank then tells him that he doesn't have anything to worry about, that the tanks are made by the U.S. military and they're indestructible.
Sure, they ship those bodies. Well, say hello.
He smacks the tank on the side, and all of a sudden there is a leak. The gas leaks out into the air. So Frank and Freddy breathe, they inhale this gas that comes out of this container. So this is where the credits roll, and they give you the feeling that a little bit of time has passed. So Freddy and Frank wake up on the floor. They're completely soaked. They're like they were passed out, but they were sweating. They get up and they start to hear these strange noises. It almost sounds like there's a dog whimpering or barking. They walk around the corner after they start yelling at each other, and they calm down a little bit. They hear this dog. They walk over, and they realize that one of the split dogs is breathing heavy, but is breathing. It's alive. It's laying on the floor, and that's the sound that they heard. The dog is whimpering. So the next thing that they hear is they hear a bunch of banging and yelling and just somebody pounding on something. They recognize that what they're hearing now is the cadaver that's in the meat locker that was in there hanging by his ears. So these two guys are now officially freaking out, rightfully so. So they don't know what to do. They're afraid to call the cops. So naturally, they decide to call the boss.
Bert, Frank, we have a little problem.
So now the boss comes in. His name is Bert. So now Bert's there, Frank's there, and Freddy's there. And they have all of these things that were once dead alive in this warehouse. They can't figure out what to do. So eventually, Bert just tells them to open the door to the meat locker. So once this door is open, some yellow, bald, naked guy comes running out of the meat locker, makes a beeline right at Bert and tackles him to the ground.
4 left, 10 right.
So in the middle of holding this naked yellow guy on the ground, they are having a conversation about George Romero's Night of the Living Dead. And they come to the determination that in order to make this thing stop, they're going to have to kill his brain. So Bert jumps up and grabs a pickaxe and hammers this dude right through the back of the head. Freddy says, "You got to get the brain," and Bert yells out, "I got him in the brain."
Brain! I hit the brain!
And this guy's still freaking out. So then he picks up a bone saw and cuts his head off. After he cuts his head off, the body stands up and the body starts to fight him. So eventually they realize that in order to get rid of this or to make this stop, they're going to have to probably eliminate this thing completely until there's absolutely nothing left. So Bert realizes that his buddy across the parking lot, across the way a little bit, has a crematorium. So he comes up with the idea to cut this body up and grab them split dogs and take them over to the crematorium. So Frank, Freddy, and Bert now have this guy. He's all cut up. They have him all parts individually wrapped in trash bags. They have the split dogs wrapped individually in trash bags. And they go over to visit Bert's friend Ernie at the crematorium. Once they get in there, they try and convince Ernie that they got a delivery of rabid weasels and there's no way in the world that they can sell them, so they want to burn them. So now at this point, Ernie says that he'll take him outside in the parking lot and he'll shoot him in the head first to put them out of their misery, simply because burning a bunch of rabid weasels while they're alive is just simply cruel. So that's when Bert has no choice but to tell Ernie that this is not really rabid weasels that they're dealing with. So they decide to show him. And in order to show him, they open one bag and an arm falls out of the bag. The arm falls out of the bag and grabs Ernie, and while trying to get the arm off of Ernie, it tears his pant leg.
Get it off! Get it off! Get it off! Get it off!
And now they have the situation in front of them. Ernie knows what happened. These guys don't really know what happened, but the matter at hand is, in order to make these things go away, and in order to make this problem go away, they have to burn these things until there is nothing left. So, Ernie agrees to do this. He says, let's get rid of your problem. So at this point, they lay all of the bags on top of a gurney, and they slide the gurney into the crematorium. They shut the door, they let that thing go, and it burns them until there's nothing left. Unfortunately, now the smoke goes up the chimney from the crematorium into the atmosphere, and it begins to rain. And I forgot to mention, another unfortunate circumstance for these guys is right next to the crematorium and right next to the medical supply warehouse is a graveyard. Currently inside of that graveyard is a whole bunch of Freddy's friends. There are a whole bunch of punk rock looking dudes. You got a girl with red hair. You got another dude named Suicide. He apparently is the leader. There's a few other guys out there, and they're all wandering around, just playing around in this graveyard. It begins to rain. The rain is absorbed into the ground. That rain makes it down to the bodies that are buried in this graveyard. And what do you think happens? Exactly. All of the dead bodies start to reanimate and crawl back up out of the ground. So now all of Freddy's friends are stuck in a graveyard full of reanimated corpses that are trying to eat them. They scatter. One of them doesn't make it out of that graveyard. Some of them make it to the medical warehouse. Some of them make it into the crematorium, but they do all scatter around, and like I said, one of them does not make it. So a couple of our characters, or Freddy's friends, make it into the crematorium where Freddy and Frank are, and they very quickly realize that Freddy and Frank are both very, very sick. And another thing that occurs is a couple of paramedics show up at the crematorium as well. Ernie called them on the phone to let them know that somebody was there and that they had been poisoned. They don't know what type of poison it is, but they had in fact been poisoned. So the paramedics, they get there, they run a couple quick tests on them. They realize that these two guys don't have any blood pressure, they don't have any pulse. Then they switch, the two paramedics switch between the two patients, and then they realize that their temperature is 70 degrees, which is room temperature. So now the paramedics tell Freddy and Frank that obviously something's wrong, but according to their tools and their equipment, those two guys are not alive, they're dead.
And it's a puzzle, because technically you're not alive.
But obviously they're not dead because they're talking to them. They're moving around and they're speaking. So clearly they're not dead. Over at the medical warehouse, the medical supply warehouse, that's where the rest of Freddy's friends are. They're in there, they're looking around for Freddy and Frank. They go down in the basement, and what do they find down there? They find the gigantic, black, tar-covered looking zombie that was inside of that military container, and he looks right at Suicide and goes, and bites him right on top of his head. He gets him down on the ground. He starts to eat him. They throw a paint can at him to get his attention. He jumps up. He starts to chase them. Now these guys are trapped inside of here with this zombie. Back over at the crematorium, they're in there, they're trying to board up the windows, and in the process of doing so, a zombie from outside grabs another one of Freddy's friends and bites him on the head. After he gets bitten, they pull this zombie inside and they actually chop her in half. She's barely even a zombie. She's got barely any flesh on her bones. She's basically a skeleton with long white hair and a little bit of flesh on her face. She's gray, and she is communicating with them. They tie her down to a table and they actually talk to her.
Why do you eat people?
Not people. Brains.
They ask her why she wants to eat brains, and she says that it makes the pain go away. And when they ask her what pain she's referring to, she says that it's the pain of being dead. That you can feel yourself rot, and when you eat brains, it makes the pain go away. And that's that. I'm not going to spoil any more of Return of the Living Dead for you. If you have not seen this movie, I'm not going to be the one that ruins it for you. I absolutely love Return of the Living Dead. I saw this movie when I was probably 14 or 15 years old the first time. When this came out, I believe I was 13 years old. This movie's fantastic. It's got a huge cult following, and for darn good reason. It was groundbreaking. It was very different. It was the first movie that introduced us to running zombies. In this movie, there are talking zombies.
Send more cars.
They pick up CB radios and communicate. Like I said, the one zombie was laying on the table. The half a zombie was laying on the table talking to Ernie. It was just very different than anything that had been made up to that point. One of the things that attracted me to this movie the most was the gore in this movie and the practical effects. I absolutely love gory movies, and there's plenty of gore in this movie. I typically don't like tongue-in-cheek comedy with my horror. I like my horror movies to be scary, and I like my comedy movies to be funny, and I usually don't like those two things to mix. Every once in a while, something will pop up that I do enjoy. This movie, in particular. Another one would be Shaun of the Dead. I did enjoy that. For the most part, I don't like that, but I did like that in this movie, and it's probably because it went hand in hand with the zombie theme, and it had the gore in it. I liked everything about this movie. I mean, I'm a huge zombie movie fan, so it's very hard for someone to make a zombie movie that I don't like. And this movie came out when I was at a very impressionable age. I saw this very young, and it proved to me even more at that early age how much I liked zombie movies. The practical effects in this movie are really good. They're pretty top-notch. They're pretty basic. I don't think there's anything extravagant in this movie. It doesn't appear to be anyway. Maybe some of the zombies themselves, especially the big tar zombie, the black zombie that they killed suicide in the movie that came out of the military tank. He was amazing looking. I would assume that he is probably one of the most recognizable zombies in all zombie movies ever made by anyone. All in all, Return of the Living Dead is just a very fun movie. It's very easy to get into. It's very fun to watch. The characters are all very likable. It's very well directed. The sets are great. The atmosphere is great. Everything about this movie is great. Of all the zombie movies that I've loved over all these years, just about my entire life, there are not very many that I've seen more times than Return of the Living Dead, and as such, there are not very many that I would recommend more than Return of the Living Dead. This is a fantastic movie. It's an absolute classic. And that's going to do it for my review of 1985's Return of the Living Dead. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you really like this video, please subscribe to my channel. I would love for you to go on this journey with me. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, have a kick-ass day, and thank you for watching.